Joan Crawford was an avid member of many charities in her life, including the WWII during World War II. In late November 1942, the WWII announced that it would open a day nursery for children between the ages of 2 and 6 whose parents are employed in war industries, located in West Los Angeles. The organization said they plan to open several of them in Southern California. Joan Crawford actually pitched the idea to several organizations before the WWII with no luck, though they agreed as a trial at her expense, making her the California state chairman of their nursery project.
19 babies locked in automobiles on one day in a parking lot outside a defense plant while their mothers work,
one report read. Shocked by these reports, Joan Crawford wanted to do something about it. Quote, "What," I thought, "if it were our 3-year-old and our 1-year-old locked out in these airtight automobiles sobbing with fear for hours while no one came," Joan told Photoplay Magazine. "Why doesn't somebody do something about it?" I thought angrily, but my conscience wouldn't let it go at that. "Why don't you do something about it?" it insisted. Joan looked for weeks to find the perfect place to house the nursery. She mentions it was hard to find a building that fit the nursery's needs, as well as unexpected resistance from the locals to have a home full of children in their neighborhood. Crawford wanted to ensure the building was accessible in case of emergency to hospitals and close to a large defense plant so that mothers could reach it easily, but not so close that it would be in danger in case of a bombing. The building was an old fraternity house which Joan leased the day they found it. Joan paid for the rent, necessary repairs, renovations, and furniture. She supervised the repairs and helped during the cleaning and painting process. The nursery cared for 50 children 6 days a week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with a trained staff. Joan paid for their volunteers' training. Some women wrote to her at the time wanting to help and do their part. The nursery included a backyard, play space, large dining room, kitchen, and sleeping space. Joan ensured the families would only pay the minimum, ranging from 25 cents to $1 based on their income, though families with fathers fighting in the war only paid the minimum. Joan funded the entire deficit, saying she charged only a small premium to remove any stigma surrounding charity, but wanted to make sure it was still affordable. The day nursery school was located at 1755 Purdue Avenue, Saltel, California, now West Los Angeles. The nursery opened on American Thanksgiving Day in 1942. On the first day, Joan was worried no one would show up. She mentioned there was very little publicity done, though at 9 a.m. sharp, the first mother, Mrs. Carter, dropped off her son. As she was leaving, one of the supervisors asked her why she wasn't taking a holiday, and she responded, "There is no holiday until the war is over." He was the only child to show up on that first day. Donald was given his breakfast, lunch, and 2 midday snacks. When Mrs. Carter came to pick Donald up, Joan mentioned she had tears in her eyes. Quote, "I can't believe to tell you what this means, Mrs. Terry. If you could only know how worried about Donald wandering all day, whether I'd put the matches out of reach, or whether he was eating the proper food. It was very hard to work with my child at home alone. I don't think I could have kept it up for much longer. And yet, I have to work. Donald and I are all alone," she said. She didn't tell me more and I didn't probe her, but I know that handsome, intelligent woman had been fighting a hard fight, Joan remembered. The next day, 6 children showed up. 2 little ones came with their 13-year-old sister Marjorie. Their mother had died and their father was a Marine away at sea. She told Joan she would walk 10 miles from home to the nursery, dropping off the children before walking to school. By July 1943, there were 4 women who reported to Joan and cared for the nursery. Newspaper articles noted many mothers worked in the nearby Douglas plant in Santa Monica. Joan visited the nursery often and helped out around the almost capacity place. Later, Joan set up a desk in the nursery for herself and at least twice a week visited for a few hours. Joan would drive to the nursery with her husband Philip Terry with a car full of toys for the children purchased by her. Though no other nurseries would flourish, Joan noted her pride in this project. She urged others to help each other in their own neighborhoods where they could.
War work was what mattered. I was up to my ears, organizing a day nursery for 50 youngsters whose mothers were working in war plants. In the papers, you read constantly of children abandoned in cars while their mothers worked. I thought of my 3-year-old Tina and her year-old brother locked in an automobile, sobbing, and promptly joined the American Women's Voluntary Services, uniform and all. This type of project is something I've been interested in ever since.
Joan would also volunteer at the Hollywood Canteen on every Monday night, serving sandwiches to soldiers and sailors and writing postcards to their families. Joan feared live audience, so she felt she couldn't tour army camps like other stars, born in front of the camera, as she said, noting to her early days at MGM. Crawford would also assume the position of the chairman of the War Dog Fund during the war. Joan Crawford's charity efforts are often overlooked.